It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us from Sweden to tell his story about going from a Pentecostal church in Sweden, being what many have called the Billy Graham of Sweden, is Ulf Ekman. Thank you for joining us, Ulf.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you.
I have, for a long time, enjoyed the Swedish fish and Swedish meatballs, and so...
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Excellent.
I'm excited to hear more of your story because this is fascinating. So what was your faith experience growing up?
Sweden is a very secularized nation. It used to be a very staunch Lutheran nation, but of course over the years it's been very secularized. And as I grew up, I was confirmed in the Lutheran Church. Everybody is about 80-90%, or when you come to that age, about 14, 15. So I had a very little grip of what faith really was, lived very secularized until about when I was 19 and a half, just finished high school. And a friend of mine turned out that he had repented and he had come to faith, evangelical faith, and it shocked me. I mean, I could not believe that this had happened to him. And he started to tell me about Jesus. So eventually that led to a conversion in my life. And I came to faith, this was 1970, so many years ago. And as I was going up to start my studies in the university, and came in contact with evangelical groups, various kinds, and was very involved in student evangelism and so on, and enjoyed it. But my background was very secularized.
And so at what point did you start considering Christianity seriously?
Well, I mean, that was when I saw the change in my best friend's life. And I still think to this day that this is the most dynamic way of evangelization. Because when you have a friend and you hear him, but you also see his life change, it does so much to you. You open yourself up. And so this is how I met Christ. And it changed me completely in so many ways. And then I studied, I took my bachelor in philosophy and later went on to theology, eventually became a Lutheran minister and a chaplain at the University of Uppsala, working with student evangelization and so forth, and I enjoyed that very much. But in this process, I saw the need for many young people to have Bible school, more formal training in their faith and in their practice. So we started a Bible school that grew into a local congregation that started a number of different congregations. And so it became like a movement or denomination, whatever you want to call it. It was a charismatic and evangelical in the core. And I was involved in this and leading this for many years. So this has been my life for over 30 years. I was a pastor and also director of a very offensive, very strong missions program, especially as the Iron Curtain fell and we moved into the Soviet Union. And this grew up to hundreds and hundreds of congregations all over former Soviet Union.
So at the time, what was your view of Catholicism? Well,
Sweden we have not had, just to give you the picture, we've not had Catholicism for about 500 years. It was forbidden to 1858, I think. It was, you would be kicked out of the nation if you converted to Catholicism at that time.
Wow.
It took up to 1970 before you were allowed, really officially allowed to start a Catholic monastery in Sweden. So this gives you a little bit of the picture. During this time, Sweden secularized a lot. It used to be a strong Lutheran state church. The interest of religion dropped dramatically over the years. And in this vacuum, the Catholic Church started to come back into Sweden. So 1998, we had our first Swedish Catholic bishop, Swedish-born Catholic bishop since the Reformation. So this is the background. Catholicism is small in Sweden, but very vibrant, I must say.
Huh.
So from my perspective, Catholicism was something in Europe, particularly Southern Europe, but not much in Sweden.
So In your book, you talk about before your conversion, there were Catholic fragments in the background. So can you explain what some of these first encounters with Catholicism were like and what those little fragments were?
Well, I would say as a young teenager, I went into a Catholic church in Gothenburg where I lived, and I had a very strange experience there. I mean, positively, it was just something that I could not understand what it was. Later, now I understand, of course, that was the presence of Christ in the tabernacle. But that I could so clearly distinguish that here is something that I wouldn't find anywhere else. And also, from time to time, I would read a book, and I would meet some people that would, especially when I started at university, of course, that would quote some Catholic authors or theologians. So I would say this would take a long time, of course, but there's a lot of strains and influences in society. You don't get rid of the Catholic Church easily in a nation, even when you try to kick it out. So it is still there. But now, of course, things have dramatically changed since we got a Swedish-born bishop, and he has been created cardinal by Pope Francis. And the Pope came a year ago, 2017, to visit Sweden because of the commemoration of the Reformation. I mean, not celebration, but commemoration. And that was very positive in media. And so there have been a number of things that have placed the Catholic Church on the map in Sweden, not just as a foreign entity trying to get in, but as a church, a vital, growing presence in Sweden, which is quite amazing, actually.
We're talking with Ulf Ekman, who wrote a book with his wife on his story of his conversion. It's called The Great Discovery, Our Journey to the Catholic Church. And what would you say are some of the key factors which led you and your wife to convert to Catholicism?
It was a little different for my wife. It was, her name is Birgitta, and which is St. Bridget. And she started to be interested in St. Bridget because there was a celebration, 700 years of the birth of Bridget, and that was celebrated in Sweden. And she started to be interested in her. That led her to start thinking about Mary, because there's so many quotations of Mary speaking to St. Bridget. And for a Protestant, that is, I mean, Mary doesn't speak to us, and nor do the saints. So what is this? Is this totally off, or is there a truth in this? And what happened was that during this period, and I had other questions, during this period, because we were quite public and people would know about us, and some people had opinions, and sometimes my wife would say, I wish they would listen to your sermons instead of just attacking, because the secular society, you get attacked for many things. Anyway, as we started to be interested in the Catholic Church, for a number of reasons, my wife said the same thing. We have treated the Catholics the way that secular journalists have treated us. We thought we knew. We were very biased in our opinion. We were emotional, but actually had lack of knowledge and prejudice. And we better study Catholic documents, not what a Protestant says about the Catholics, but what do they say about themselves. So that led us to start studying the Catechism and the documents of Second Vatican Council, and of course a number of Catholic authors. I have been involved a lot in missions work, and as I mentioned, the Iron Curtain fell, and we had an amazing opportunity to go into Russia with missions and evangelization. But as that work grew, there were also a number of ecclesiological questions. My questions had to do with what is really authentic faith, because for sure in our environment there are so many variations, there are so many groups, there are so many opinions about scriptures. So what is authentic faith, and where is the authentic church, and what does it consist of? How has it developed through history? And is it a continuous development, or do we start over again and again and again? So is there an authentic continuity? And these questions that really led me to the question about authority. who has the ultimate authority when it comes to interpreting Scripture, to understanding what the church is, and authority to move and act in the church. These questions about authority, about authenticity and continuity, I really struggled with them because I was in a position where I worked with hundreds and hundreds of pastors and leaders, and there were many decisions to be made. What do we believe? Why do we believe what we believe? How do we correct if somebody is going off the track and so forth? And it led me to understand that I did not really have a proper basis for my authority. I mean, loosely, we constantly refer to the Scriptures. But in certain in a contention of what is the true interpretation of Scripture, we had nowhere to go.
Right.
And I'm talking about a number of years now, of course. So this is from the middle of the 90s and up to about 2002. We started to meet accidentally, so to speak. I would say providentially today. Catholics that were they were obviously full of the Holy Spirit, because this is also one of the things of the biases and prejudices, I believe, in certain parts of the Protestant world, is that we basically don't believe that Catholics are proper Christians,
right.
Which is a terrible thing when you think about it. You know, I mean, to call somebody, I don't think you're a Christian because this and this and that. And when I met a number of the charismatic movement and also more traditional Catholics, and a variety of different Catholics, both laymen and religious orders and priests and even bishops, and saw their faith, their passion, their love for Jesus Christ, their understanding of the Scripture. In one way, it really put me to shame. I understood that I didn't really know what I was talking about when it came to the Catholic Church. And so I felt really challenged to discover. This is why the title of the book is The Great Discovery. I need to discover, I need to appreciate what I discover, I need to draw closer to that which I have discovered, and I need to unite to it. And that fourth word there, unite, I put on the back burner. I did not really want to unite. So that's the process we went into. And it took us a number of years, I would say 15 years gradually. And during this time, I didn't think I would become a Catholic. I thought I would be more of an ecumenically enlightened Protestant.
Yeah.
But the Lord kept on pulling us, you know.
So the book is available in 8 different languages. I imagine most of our listeners would prefer the English version. So where should we send people to get a copy of that?
I think Ignatius Press, of course, you know, that publishes. You can go on their home webpage or just go on Amazon and just type in Ulf Ekman or The Great Discovery, and it's there. And you can probably get it in any Catholic, I hope you can get it in a Catholic bookstore. So it would be fairly easy to get a hold of it.
All right. Well, I have so many more questions about ecumenical ministry and more about your conversion, but people will have to check out the book to learn more. Again, it's called The Great Discovery, Our Journey to the Catholic Church by Ulf and Birgitta Ekman. Thank you so much, Ulf, for joining us today and sharing a little bit of your journey with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.